Hello, my name is Caitlin Lee. I'm doing my personal experience speech over my trip to North Carolina. I actually just took this trip a couple weeks ago at the end of February. I took this trip for a couple different reasons. Particularly, my 2021 travel goal was to visit one new area that I had never been before at least once every month. And I've never been to North Carolina. It had always been an interest, but I never really gotten the opportunity. But it was also the death anniversary of my grandpa, and I wanted to do something special so that I could feel close to him. And I always feel close to him when I'm traveling or seeing somewhere new that I had never been before. I went with my roommate and her 4-month-old son, so I was a little concerned how the trip was going to go as it's about a 14-hour drive from Ottumwa. But aside from him being a little fussy, the trip was really, really great. We spent the entire day one driving. We didn't really get to stop and see anything, mainly because there wasn't a lot of sights on the area for us to stop and see. But we also didn't get to stop and see any of the state lines like we were wanting to. This is mostly because they were all on the middle of a bridge or in an interstate, so not a really great time for us to stop and take pictures. Once we arrived to Asheville, it was really late, so we just ended up taking our stuff into the hotel and we went straight to bed. And the next day we slept in, but once we got around and got up, we realized that we were in the middle of Lake Lure. This is a really small mountain type town that the movie Dirty Dancing was partly filmed at. So they had a bunch of Dirty Dancing themed restaurants and lodges and hotels. So it was really interesting to get to see everything. The things especially exciting for me to see was two different inns. One of them is where the cast actually stayed while they were filming there, and so they had two cabins where the two stars, Baby and Johnny, actually stayed, which was really exciting. Those were both Dirty Dancing themed. And then the second inn was where it had the original flooring of where they did the final Dirty Dancing theme um, dance at the end of the movie. The most favorite part of the Lake Lure was the actual lake where they did the famous lake lift in the movie, and so we actually got to see that area, and we also saw a flower bridge that went over it. In addition to this, we kind of just drove around the mountains and got to see the area the first day that we were down there. And we also got to see Chimney Rock, which was approximately 500 steps, but it was a beautiful view with the mountains in the background and the lake underneath us. We ended up turning in early that night just because we were still tired, but on day 3 we were up at 5 a.m. because we wanted to drive about an hour to South Carolina to see the Fred W. Symes Chapel. This is a chapel I have always wanted to visit, but I've really never got the opportunity. It's a beautiful open chapel with a huge wooden cross with the mountains in the back. It was something I saw a long time ago when I was young, and I always thought that that's where I would want to visit one day. And my mom visited a few years ago, and it made me even more excited to see it in person. So we decided we would go and watch the sunrise, and unfortunately it was a bit foggy, so we didn't get to see as much as we wanted to, and it was very crowded and very cold, so we only stayed for a few minutes, but it was very beautiful and everything that I expected. After that, we went to the National Forest and saw Looking Glass Waterfall, which was the most beautiful waterfall I've ever seen. It was humongous and very tall and very loud, and it was very cold because it was so early in the morning. But it was definitely my most favorite part of the trip, or at least part of it. And then after that, we drove down to downtown Asheville and got to see the art district where different artists had graffitied and drawn murals, and got to see that kind of side of Asheville. After that, we went to the Biltmore Estate, which is the largest home in America. And it was really interesting because they had a huge plantation, a deer farm, a horse stables, and even a winery. So it took us a couple hours just to get through the house itself because there were so many different rooms, and it was very interesting to hear and see all of the history that the house held. It was a bit rainy, so we didn't get to stay as long as we probably would have if it hadn't been raining, but it was definitely an experience that I'm glad that we got an opportunity to take. After Biltmore, we just went back to the hotel and we got some rest because we were going to have to drive the 14 hours home the next day. But we did go back to the Fred W. Symes Chapel in South Carolina later that evening to watch the the sunset, which was actually even more beautiful than the sunrise. We were the only ones there, which really gave us time to cherish what it was like to just sit there and experience all of the beauty that we had around us. Um, Overall, the trip gave me a lot of insight, and I think especially I was um, very worried and very stressed about work and about school, and I needed an area in my life to remind me how important it is to take time to see the beauty that's around us and to really cherish living in the moment and not feeling guilty about wanting to stop worrying about the future and just enjoy where we're at in life, because I think it's very important that we don't forget that we still have to live in the moment even if we're looking forward to our future.